Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Liliana. Today I have Johnny, Ricardo, and Ezekiel with me. We're diving into a topic that is uncomfortable and is necessary. We often talk about The Handmaid's Tale as a warning tale, but if we read closer, Margaret Atwood isn't just writing about a scary what if future. She's documenting a specific brutal reality, how sexual violence is used not just as a crime but as a deliberate tool of power and political control. Throughout the story in Gilead, the body isn't treated as a person, it's treated as a resource. And the scary part is that history and even modern headlines show us that this isn't just fiction. Ricardo, what is one thing you noticed in this novel?
I noticed that The Handmaid's Tale sexual violence is rebranded as a religious ritual called the ceremony by calling it ceremony and involving the the wives. Gilead strips away the individual's identity. Offered is no longer a person. She is she is a vessel or breeding vehicle. This shows us the power uses language to normalize abuse. When the state mandates violence as a social duty, it makes resistance feel like a sin rather than a fight for human rights. Johnny, do you have any real examples you could give that goes with the ceremony scene?
Yes, a prime example that gives ghostly style control in real life is the Bosnian War in 1990, where sexual violence was used as a literal weapon of rape of war. In Bosnia, rape camps were established where women were systematically raped to terrorize and um, cleanse communities. Also, enslaved women in the U.S. were subjected to systemic rape to produce more labor for their owners. This turned human reproduction into a commercial transaction, much like the handmaids being transferred from house to house based on their viability. This highlights how those powers view the bodies of the oppressed as property, wherever it's a plantation owner or a commander in Gilead. The goal is the same: total ownership of another person's future.
See, what is the claim that you have?
A claim I wrote down is how people normalize sexual violence, which keeps women in fear, forcing them to adopt submissive roles for survival.
Great claim. How does your claim have a relevant evidence from the Handmaid's Tale?
The threat of punishment, like being sent to the colonies, keeps inmates obedient. Public punishments such as salvations and prosecutions reinforce fear and discourage resistance.
Do you know any real world examples you could give us that go with your claim?
Yes, just as the Republic of Gilead uses religion ideology to justify the removal of women's rights, the current rule in Afghanistan has been described as gender apartheid since 2021. The Taliban has systematically barred women from secondary education. Most workplaces and public spaces like parks, women are forced into domestic roles and must often cover their faces entirely in public. The fear of severe physical punishment from moral feelings mirrors the salvaging and public execution in Gilead, forcing compliance as a primary means of survival.
Excellent. Thank you for your feedback. Brain Blast will be presented by Johnny now.
Alright, so for our sponsorship, it's gonna be the Exhausted Student Energy Drink. The buy for this that they have win. This is a student who stayed up to like 2 a.m. playing video games, and then remember the project was due. The for their basically their headline is Brain Blast is better than a nap. Are you currently running on 3 hours of sleep and a bag of Takis? Is your brain currently making Windows shutdown noise? You need Brain Blast. It's basically a lightning bolt in a can. We don't know what's in it, and honestly, don't ask. Just drink it and watch the work happen.
Thank you, Johnny, for that information. Now back to our last claim. The last and final claim that we will be talking about today is how people mask violence and they reframe it as a relationship drama or misunderstandings. This happens in The Handmaid's Tale when the commander treats his relationship with Alfred as casual or even romantic. Scramble Games gives, ignoring the coercion involved. Giselle is presented as a choice, but the women they are still controlled and exploited by the system. A real life world example that goes with my claim is how in The Handmaid's Tale, where the state uses language to hide brutality, the Russian legal system and social norms often mask violence using the following tactics. Supporters of the 2017 law argued it was necessary to protect family values and keep the state out of private family matters. By framing the law as a way to prevent misunderstandings from ruining a family's reputation, the state effectively sanctioned physical violence as a private right of the head of household. Under this law, an act of violence that results in bruising or bleeding is often treated like a parking ticket, punishable only by a small fine. This legal reframing suggests that the violence is merely a dispute or drama, rather than a crime, mirroring how Gilead treats the ceremony as a religious duty rather than an assault. Now let's move on and answer 3 questions that the audience wrote for us. For the first question is, how does The Handmaid's Tale portray sexual violence as a mechanism of control, and to what extent is the violence institutionalized to maintain social and political order? Do you have an answer for that, Johnny?
Yes, in The Handmaid's Tale, sexual violence isn't just a crime, it's a tool government uses to stay in power by turning rape into a mandatory monthly ritual called the ceremony. The leaders of Gilead take away a woman's right to her own body. They force women into specific low level roles and use the fear of violence to keep them in line. Essentially, the regimen uses sexual trauma as a way to control the entire society.
Okay, second question. In what ways does the normalization or ritualization of sexual violence in Gilead affect both victims and perpetrators, and how does this complicate ideas of constant agency and accountability? Do you have an answer for this, Ricardo?
By making rape a legal and holy requirement, the government completely destroys the ideas of consent and personal choice. This system forces victims to obey just to stay alive, by allowing the people in the power to feel like they haven't done anything wrong in the society. Following the rules is the only way to survive, and speaking means death. Speaking out means death.
Okay, thank you for your response, Ricardo. For the last final question is, to what extent is sexual violence used as a tool of power in real world contexts, historical or contemporary, and how does Atwood's depiction of Gilead help readers better understand these dynamics? What's your answer, Seek?
Sexual violence is often used as a weapon to gain power and control over others. Rather than being about active desire, it is calculated a way to emulate and terrorize people. In the anime cell, Margaret Atwood shows our government can turn rape into an official system to keep control. By doing this, the regime reduces women to do nothing more than their ability to have children and wipe away their sense of who they are.
Okay, thank you guys for your responses. That brings us to the end Looking at Gilead and these real world examples, it's clear that Margaret Atwood wasn't just trying to scare us. She was showing us how easily human rights can be rewritten as duties or traditions when power is involved. Before we go, does anyone have one final thought they want to leave the audience with?
I just say watch the language when people start renaming what violence or taking away against. That's the first red flag.
And don't forget, history isn't just the past. It's a blueprint if we aren't careful.
Compliance might be survival, but awareness is the first step to resistance.
Well said. Whether you're navigating the world of Gilead or just trying to survive work, hopefully with a brain blast in your hopefully with the brain blast in your hand, stay aware and keep questioning the systems around you. Thanks for listening to our podcast. I'm Liliana and we'll see you next time.